This is an RNZ podcast.
They say it takes a village to raise a child. I'm Kathryn Ryan, and here we draw on my conversations with experts on 9 to Noon to help you navigate family life. Joseph Driessen, thank you for your patience, and feel free to split this into 2 sessions, Joseph, as we're only going to have 10 minutes. Thank you, and please tell me what we're discussing today.
Yeah, hi Kathryn, nice catching up. It's really great. It was interesting listening to Michael Cullen. So today I thought I'll open up a new set of talks, and that is about hyperactive, chaotic children and how to manage them, and ranging from sort of averagely difficult children to children actually who probably have full-blown attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But I thought we leave that till the next talk. But I thought now we just talk about some parents who are really quite surprised at their children who seem to be immature, chaotic, disorganized, forgetful, and a little bit hyperactive, and they miss deadlines, they can't do their schoolwork, they procrastinate everything, and it just drives everybody a little bit mad with their impulsivity, and you really think, why have they grown up, you know? And what does the research can tell us about that? Because the amateur response of the average parent is to become frustrated and exasperated and put pressure on the child, and then they actually don't understand why the child seems to get worse. And so I thought I'll share with my listeners what the research says about these children.
Thank you, Joseph. We may not get beyond setting the scene, but I'll let you sally forth in the time we have. Thank you. Go ahead.
I realise we only have a few minutes,
yes.
But I just thought I'll explain the next part. And we'll leave it at that. We'll explain it.
Great, please.
The research shows that around about between 3 and 5% of the children, probably more, actually are quite delayed in a development of a certain neurological circuit. And those circuits revolve around controlling your impulse for the now. So most children can control their impulse for the now. You know, I'll stop, I'll wait, I won't do it. But some children want to do it now because the impulse program isn't working very well. They just feel overwhelmed. I've got to do this now. The second thing which they lack is an awareness of time. They lose themselves in the moment. They forget what they were thinking or planning to do 10 minutes ago. And actually, the future recedes as well. And they forget that actually, if they don't do this now, the future is not going to be good. They become completely overwhelmed by now, and they lose a sense of time. And that is, in fact, a very debilitating delay of an executive skill. The third thing, what these children lack, is actually the ability to self-talk and self-manage. Many children go, like babies don't self-talk, but little toddlers start talking to themselves. You know, I've got to be good for mum. I've got to do this. You know, I've got to be in time. I've got to get my shoes ready. That becomes internalized. And many children, when they're sort of in say between 5 and 10, they do a lot of self-talk to manage themselves. You know, I've got to remember to do this, but it's all internal. And then adults, we often just cognitively think that we might, but we also often self-talk. What the researchers know that these children don't self-talk. They just caught in a moment, like sort of, you know, hapless rabbits, and they don't really seem to be able to galvanize themselves. And the last thing what these children lack is the ability to actually return to their original plan and say, now where was I? What am I going to do? And so this lack of, and I thought I'll finish that soon, this lack of impulse control, this lack of knowing where you are on an imaginary timeline, this lack of foresight and hindsight and what we'll do, this lack of self-talk, and this lack of kind of return to where it was, that creates a child who is actually very, very impulsive, reacting to the now, and unable to plan their day and their lives. And you might say, to finish off this part of the talk, you might say, well, that's terrible. Why does nature do that? Is it a disability? Well, not in certain social situations. For example, if you're a salesman and you're selling this and that, and you're always on the go, and people interrupt you and they say, what about this and that? And you immediately focus on that, you tend to actually be quite productive. And some classical salespeople are very productive salespeople, but their paperwork is hopeless. because they can't concentrate on that. And so probably in the past for hunters and gatherers, there's some research which shows that hyperactive and impulsive in the moment hunters are more successful, and they're more persevering, and they're more sort of on the go all the time. But of course, for our modern environment, for many children, this is a significant liability. And research shows that some children, probably 60%, do not outgrow this, and they carry on the habits and the dysfunctional behavior into adulthood. And some adults find it really hard to plan, and they're chaotic, and their school career and their work career aren't as good as what should have been. So I thought that sets the scene, Kathryn, and I thought the next talk we're going to talk about what are the strategies parents can do.
That will be excellent to do. We've got about 3 minutes left, so I guess
Okay.
one obvious question, I don't think we have
Yes.
time to perhaps go through the advice, but one obvious question I could ask you is, how do you recognise whether this is a normal but unhelpful characteristic in your child as opposed to something else?
That's really interesting because that's also been quite well researched. If it's sort of within the norm, you think, well, the kid is just a bit hopeless, and with a bit of nudging and help, they improve a little bit, and you just exaggerate a little bit, and you think, well, the child is a little bit immature for their age. But the research shows when it's really bad, there are significant the parent says, my child is different. And sometimes they burst out into tears when they go to a counselor or a pediatrician and say, my child is different. I was reading a wonderful book where the mother said, I'm losing my child. I'm losing connection with my child. The child is just all over the place. I can't do it. So the parents notice this child is significantly different. The second thing is, many of these children have very poor social skills as well because they're hyper impulsive and gauche. They don't understand a social skill is very much the past, now, and the future. I'll do this for you, and you in the future will do this for me. I'll take my turn, and then it's your turn. These children can't do that. And so often these parents are quite shocked and embarrassed that many children actually don't want to spend time with their child. So there's a second red flag. The first red flag is the parent thinks this is just way beyond norm. The second red flag is my child is not very popular because of their unskilled behavior. And the third red flag is that school, sports, homework, chores, chaotic rooms, they're not just not so good. They are just chaotic. They're constant complaints. And so the research shows that most parents actually know we've got a really difficult child, but what happens if they don't seek help or they don't listen to a talk like this or they don't read the book, then they become exasperated and they just become woven into a dysfunctional family, and they think, well, this is life, but it isn't. It's a child with a disability.
Joseph, thank you for your patience with our shortened cross today. Thank you for setting the scene, and we'll look forward next time as you give us some more details, including ways to help parents deal with it's executive functions, isn't it? It's those higher level functions that
Absolutely.
that we need to develop over time. I'm looking forward to it very much. Thank you, Joseph
Thank you, Kathryn.
Driessen.